Good evening. Welcome to the Wyndham-Raymond School District Board of Directors meeting. It is Wednesday, February 25th, 2026 at 6:30 p.m. We're in the Jordan Small Middle School gym. May I have a roll call, please?
Sue Accardi.
Here.
Jess Bridges. Jody Carroll.
Here.
Marge Gavoni.
Here.
Matthew Irving.
Here.
Joe Kellner.
Here.
Grace Levitt.
Here.
Christina Small.
Here.
Ginny Woodman.
Here.
Maggie Soul.
Here. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 4 is agenda approval. May I have a motion, please?
I move to adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
For discussion? All those in favor? Agenda is adopted. Next item is public input. The purpose of public input is to provide an opportunity for the public to express their interests, concerns, and suggestions related to matters under consideration by the board. As this is not a public forum, the board will hear public comments without engaging in discussion or offering responses. Speakers must state their first and last name and town of residence before beginning their comments. Each person has up to 3 minutes to speak, provided that they maintain common decency and decorum. Complaints concerning individual students or employees will not be heard at this meeting. Resolution may be sought through the superintendent's office as appropriate. The chair maintains the authority to stop any comments that violate these rules. For further explanation of the rules, refer to Board Policy BEDH, Public Participation at Board Meetings. Is there anybody who wishes to speak? All right, seeing none, we will close public comment and move on to superintendent's report.
Good evening, everyone, and we braved another snow day today. Fortunately, we didn't have to call a snow day, and the snow went right on schedule with 8:15 start and a 12:15 end. But it was nice to get another day in, especially after losing Monday to the blizzard that doesn't seem like it was a blizzard other than the wind for a little bit of time. But no, it was good to have students back in school today, and it's hard to believe that we're actually finishing up the month of February, and next week we're going to be into March. A couple things that I want to share tonight. First of all, just want to say congratulations to all of our winter athletes. We had another outstanding winter with many teams making the playoffs and some not going as far as they possibly hoped, but I think something that was true throughout all of it, whether it be the middle level sports or the high school sports, is that our students represented the towns of Wyndham and Raymond well, showed great sportsmanship, and also represented their school well as far as competing at the highest level possible that they could. So great to see that our student athletes had such a great season. It's hard to believe also that roughly 2.5 weeks will be into spring sports and ready to hit the ground running, and hopefully the snow will melt in time for April baseball, softball, lacrosse, and all those other things that are going to be happening outside. We're also into one-act season, so the Wyndham High School one-act team, which is a MPA-sanctioned competition, they will be performing this upcoming Friday night, the 27th. Their one-act submission, I've actually got to pull back up the name of the play, which is Every Man. And CJ and students have been working really hard on this, but the public has the opportunity to go and see it this Friday night at 6:30 or next Friday night at 6:30 as well. And then on March 7th, they will be at South Portland High School in their competition. And if they do well in the regional, then they'll have the opportunity to be invited to states. But if you've never been to a one-act festival, I suggest you take some time to do it. It's actually a wonderful opportunity, bunch of fun time to see a large number of plays from a group of different schools, and kids love seeing their school board members and school administrators attending those events. And lastly, I want to end with Christine and I had a chance. We are actually doing listening tours right now for strategic plan. Right now we had the opportunity to, or yesterday, we had the opportunity to sit in with students and staff from Wyndham High School. Ryan and Vanessa and Phil set up a series of schedules where we had a chance to meet with small teams of teachers and students and hear their input on what they think should be in the next strategic plan. And it was a great opportunity for us to just sit down with staff and sit down with students and hear their hopes and dreams, many of which echoed what we saw in community feedback when the thought exchange went out, and we'll be continuing that process through the other schools across the district, and then ultimately all of that will be then coming back to our core beliefs and our action steps, which we hope to be able to give the board a preview by the end of the school year. And then ultimately being able to present the next strategic plan to the board in August for approval. But just a great, anytime we get a chance to sit down with staff and students and talk about hopes and dreams for what they want to see for their school and what they want to see for students, it's just a great time. So we'll be continuing on in that process.
All right, item 7 this evening is the student representative report.
Well, I mean, I don't have too much to report, seeing as we've been on vacation for the past week. But I just really want to thank all the teachers and administrators and rest of the staff who have really made the transition back into school, especially with the snow day, as easy as possible. And I really just think they're doing a really great job, especially in the winter months, keeping student morale up and just doing a really great job being welcoming to everybody. And yeah, just thank you. That's it.
All right, we're going to move on to board roundtable. March?
Okay, seems like forever ago. We had a technical school meeting on January 12th. Seems a long way from now. Yeah. Yeah. So they do it, Westbrook went first and Paths went second. Westbrook Regional Vocational School, it was great. We heard from 2 second-year students. They were in the automotive technology program. They described what they were doing and what they were learning as it applies to technology that is incorporated into auto repairs now. It was really interesting listening to them to see, especially, well, being an older generation person, and when cars of years ago, there's so much difference now, and there's so much more technology in this cars than there were before. They had nothing but positive things to say about how attending this program has helped them, and one of them is going to CMCC when he graduates, and the other student is continuing to work in the automotive field. And by the way, I did get an inside tip as to what's the best car to buy, if anybody wants to know. That was from the students, and oh, by the way, from their instructor also. The other next was computer science, has had a low attendance, and cybersecurity is also low in attendance. So they're looking to change the name to better reflect what is taught and where it could lead. As I think we've discussed in the past, there is a minimum size number of students in each one of these programs before they decide whether they're going to fold the program. And they try very, very hard to either update the program so it's more in line with what's going on today before they do that. Okay, they received approval to incorporate the CTE exploratory program into next year curriculum, and this one will be primarily freshmen and sophomores. I think I spoke about this before. There's a lot of things that come into play in doing this. One of the, when they start off, if I remember correctly, Chris, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but they're going to start off with the Westbrook students only because they're right next door. So it's a lot easier for them to be able to, there's no transportation time. So there'll be more on that to come. They celebrated their Teacher of the Year, which was great. I do not know him. And they do have new business partners with Mesa Trucks and Van and Brunt, B-R-U-N-T, Workwear, who is selling them a pallet load of slightly worn work boots. It's still in the boxes. I think they're kind of like the ones that get tried on and nobody buys them. You know, you walk around the floor or whatever. So they gave them the whole pallet for $250 to distribute to students, which is going to be great because most of those programs, the kids need those type of commercial boots to do it. So that was also great. So for admission updates, they had 406 eighth graders visit and 469 high school students come. So far, they have received 363 applications, which is great, but not so great because they can only take 226 students. They're still limited to capacity-wise, and that's basically from all of the schools that send there. A resource they have used, they talked a little bit about how they're helping, they're doing community service work. So they've been working with, main needs to supply clothing, et cetera, to students. They've also done a lot of outreach, especially over the holidays, to families in need. A point that also was raised is there is some concern that there are prerequisites in place for some programs that could possibly eliminate students that might do well in a classroom but could not apply it in a technical situation, much easier. The response was that these situations need to be worked through with the students, counselors, and teachers. Basically stating, we know a lot of kids, they might not be very good in math from a book, but if you took it and you took that math and you applied it to one of the programs that they were doing, they could succeed. So that is a situation. They said they really want to coordinate this with the teachers and the counselors from the sending schools because they know the students much better than them. So they don't want to go with either you have to get a B or B minus to be in a program. So they're working on that. We had a brief intermission. They had great food, great breakfast. Thank you very much. Next, we started the PATHS meeting, which is Portland Arts Technology High School. We started it. Department of Education is discussing start times again. Periodically, that comes up. Well, it's coming back up again. But the comment was made that it would be a difficult situation with technical schools unless they made it mandatory for the whole state, and so more to come on that. We think maybe the technical schools are not in favor of it because they say it's very hard to be able to go with the surrounding towns and get everything in place unless everybody is doing it. Okay, now here comes the biggie. PATHS went into lockdown at this point, so not much more was discussed. We were at Westbrook. And everybody who was sitting there from the sending schools, all of a sudden they were all on their phone. Not me, I don't get the notifications, but they're all on their phones and everything. And Christine was there, and she's at the table with them, and they were trying to give Kevin the high sign. Well, come to find out, Kevin did not have his phone on him. He's the director for PATHS. So he did not get the notification that the rest of them got. So he kind of ended it there because he really had to get back to his school to see what was going on. And by the way, it was not at PATHS. It happened to be at Casco Bay, which is connected to PATHS. But they are connected, so it affected them too. So our next meeting is March 12th, and it will be at PATHS. And the full meetings, as usual, I will send them to you when I receive them.
Anyone else for board roundtable? Okay, let's move on to committee reports. Finance.
Good evening. Finance Committee has not met since we last met. Our next meeting will be on March 3rd at 9:30 in the Superintendent's Conference Room. That's going to be a longer meeting this time. We're going to start with just normal agenda items, going over revenue and expenses, and then we're inviting various members of the A team to do a detailed budget presentation and conversation with us, which is a new step this year, as we've discussed, and very much looking forward to it. Thanks.
Facilities.
Oh, here I am again. Okay, facilities. We had a meeting February 10th, so first thing we discussed was the RSU 14 Capital Reserve Planning, and it's shared with the Finance Committee. That meeting is going to take place March 9th at 2:30, and it's going, are we down at the house, the superintendent's office?
Most likely be in the superintendent's conference room.
Okay. So the purpose of this meeting, we've discussed this in the past, but as a reminder, it's going to be to review the capital reserve recommendations that will be presented to the public during the May public budget meeting. So there will be the Finance Committee, the Facilities Committee, and of course, our illustrious Facilities Director, Mr. Bill Hansen, and of course, Chris, the usual. After that, we discussed the middle school construction update, and Bill provided us an update to the new middle school project. The project is progressing on schedule, and it's within budget. Chris is going to be working with Lance to schedule a middle school construction committee meeting, just to let everybody that's on that committee know what's going on. We haven't had a meeting in quite a while. Even though it's been winter and you'd think things shut down, things have not shut down. And I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that, Chris.
No, I'll just, the construction committee, I can't remember what Thursday, I want to say March 26th, but I'm probably entirely wrong right now. But we'll be coming up, and for the first time
That's right, you did.
in a number of months, the construction committee will have the opportunity to walk through the building. And part of why we've been holding off is that it is an active construction site, and right now it's reached a point where it's actually safe to have visitors. Some of the large 3-story openings that are large shafts and things have now been closed up, and so the possibilities of people tripping and falling and hurting themselves has dropped dramatically. So we'll be getting the committee that's out there and also talking about some updates, and then also starting the long, arduous process of deciding on some furniture.
It is March 26th from 5 to 7. You're right. Very good. We also had a brief discussion on the repurposing of the Wyndham Middle School. Wyndham has put together, or is presently working on what's going to happen there. So Chris has already had one meeting with, actually, you had the meeting with them. You can probably discuss it better. It happened after we'd had this meeting.
Sure, just a quick update, and actually for Facilities Committee's members as well. I had a chance yesterday, Tuesday, to meet with town manager, the assistant town manager who's working on the community center project, as well as somebody from Sebago and Dwight Anderson, who is our civil engineer, and just talk through some of the preliminary plans that we discussed to the Facilities Committee, just concerns that we have about bus queuing, and also concerns we have about some loss of green space around Field Allen that we'll be holding on to. We also had some good discussions on existing environmental permits that are on the Wyndham High School campus, that 110-acre parcel. And so some great information was shared. We ended the meeting in a good spot, and I think it's going to be something that's going to benefit not only the community of Wyndham, but I think also Wyndham and Raymond students who are on that campus and being able to access the community center that will be there.
Okay, we did not discuss the repurposing of Jordan Small because we haven't received any information on that yet. Go ahead.
They're just now asking for people to step up to be on the committee for that, so
Okay.
it will be in the works soon, I hope.
Excellent. After that, we talked about the North Wyndham Sewer Development at Manchester. This one centered around the little meeting house. If people don't know where that is right next to the North, what's the church?
North Wyndham Union Church.
That's the church. It's the little house that's right next door. That particular house happens to be sitting on school property, but we're definitely going to let them stay there. But there was some questions about bringing sewer to their house, and that's basically what they're working on. As you remember, I think you remember, when the parking lot was done for the Manchester, that still is the base coat, and that will not be. Well, we were hoping for next summer, but depending on what happens, it might go another year, which is not a big concern to Bill, because he said the base coat will last quite a while before anything happens to it. Next, we talked about the playground committee work and the planning. That's been going on for a little while now. It's been kind of slow because it's winter. We couldn't do anything anyway. But it will be a meeting with the playground committee just to bring them up to snuff as to what's going on. Bill is trying to incorporate that into his plans. And as we've mentioned in the past, the Manchester School will be the first beneficiary of that, and we'll have to just see where it goes from there. We'll have a plan at some point in time. And the last, no, not the last thing. Next to the last thing was 61 Wyndham Center Road, and that happens to be that lovely house that is sitting where the new middle school is going. So what do we do with it? We have been kicking that ball down the road for quite a while now. There's been some mini discussions on it. Chris and Bill think they have come up with a great solution for that. There's more to come later, but at one point, but we are putting a maintenance shed, which is it's not a shed, it's a building. When you come from Wyndham Center Road, when you come in, before you turn around the corner, it's going to be into the left, kind of like a way offside, and it's quite a big building. But part of inside of that building would have been a part that was separated for their use, for the grounds people, etc., offices, something. So they're thinking that we could possibly take this house, move it over beside that, and have it. It's all set up. It's got bathrooms, it's got a kitchen, it's got plenty of rooms in it. That's just an overview right now. Bill said don't put any money on it. It's just something that's being talked about presently. And that, if you want to read the whole thing, if you go online, it's like for all of ours, for curriculum, facility, finance, you can find all of it on the website, all of our agendas and all of our minutes from our meetings. Thank you.
Thanks, Marge. Policy?
Sure. So policy met on the 9th, reviewing required policies. So just a quick housekeeping catch-up. We set a 5-year cadence as a proposal for the policy team to be reviewing all of our policy book, which is over 200 policies. So we have somewhere in the neighborhood of 81 required policies. So we set the big task this year of trying to figure out a review cadence. So at the beginning of this year, we thought, well, we'll go through all the required policies. Triggering events would be legislative changes or any required changes based on the administration's request. And we decided to go the last reviewed oldest, so back to 2009 for the required, and we just filtered them and we've been working through. We've completed 39 policies this year, which is great. We did miss the last 2 policy meetings due to snow days, which isn't super helpful, but having said that, we're back on track. So we'll be meeting on March 9th. And in our last meeting, we essentially reviewed 3 policies. We're bringing 2 tonight to you, chemical hygiene and hazardous materials for first read, as well as pest management in school facilities and on school grounds. We did get a good amount of work done on immunization of students. We'll continue that work going into March 9th. I'll just note for interest, for anyone who's particularly interested, the work in the immunization of students, will continue our work with that, but we actually decided to add potentially an exhibit for that. So we were lucky to have at this meeting, I'll get into it in the readout, but essentially we had a meet and consult with our nursing team, which is very difficult in our district. So we had Gail White and Carrie Jolly join us. We're thankful for that input. We'll continue to finish that one on the 9th of March. And I'll leave it at that for now. Our next meeting is posted on the website, and essentially we'll be going through more required policies at a cadence of really looking at oldest to newest. Okay, so I'll leave it at that for now.
Thanks. Curriculum?
Yeah, I'm filling in for Jess, who's unable to be here tonight. The curriculum committee met on February 9th, and we heard a really great presentation from the Farm to School committee. The presentation included an update on a multi-year plan for the new middle school, and also included information about professional development that's going on, resources that have been gathered, and the RSU connections to various groups in Maine and beyond. The board will be hearing a full presentation later this spring. for the board and for the community, and so I don't want to go into too much detail, but it was really, really fascinating, very interesting, and there is also information on the website, so if you want a sneak preview of some of that information, it's on the committee website. Thanks.
Thank you, Grace. We're going to move on to report of the secretary. May I have a motion, please?
I move to approve the minutes of the February 4th, 2026 meeting.
Second.
Board discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries. Next motion, please.
I move to approve the minutes of the February 24th, 2026 meeting.
Second.
Board discussion? All those in favor?
One abstention.
Hold on. Got 7. All right. Opposed? Abstain. 1 abstain. Okay, motion carries. We're going to move on to new appointments. May I have a motion, please?
I move to approve the following appointment for the 2025-2026 school year. Jenny Elise Dunn as school counselor at Jordan Small Middle School.
Second.
Board discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries. All right, we have arrived at item 12, which is the adult education state of the school. So welcome, Director Tom Nash.
Chris? Brian has our podium.
Thanks, Christine.
Tom, that might have to be turned on.
Can you hear me?
I turned it on.
Testing. It's on, right?
Yeah, maybe just take it and hold it if you can.
Uh-oh. Got to be careful I don't break into song here. So,
Just don't dance.
Oh, come on.
again, thank you for this opportunity to be here tonight to speak to the school board, to members of the public who are here as well, and those that are at home, to get a sense as to what we have been doing in our adult education program, Wyndham Raymond Adult Ed, since last September. Get the first, go right to the first page. Thank you. So we have a picture there of one of our graduates, Trey. And I just want to tell you a quick story about Trey. Trey had moved around to several different schools before his family moved to Wyndham. And he had had bad experiences at his previous schools. And he didn't really want to start again at a new high school. So he came to us. He was very, very successful with the high set, extremely high scores. And he is now working on and pursuing a career as a sound engineer. So we're very pleased with him and how well he did. Now, Grace, I know you had probably a report from the advisory board. Some of the things that I'm mentioning tonight are the same things we mentioned at the advisory board, but I'm just not sure how wide that was distributed, that audience. So I'm going to repeat some of that information. Our ESL program is English for Speakers of Other Languages, has been growing, and our remote learning is very, very popular. It's definitely very popular with our immigrant population. Our in-person classes have seen a drop in enrollment for obvious reasons. I think they are now starting to feel a little bit safer coming back to our program. But our one in-person class has had about 50% participation since we started. Our high set, which is the high school equivalency test, and our high school diploma numbers are staying consistent with other years. So 24, 26 students enrolled. Our ABE registrations are adult basic education, which includes literacy, numeracy, and high school completion. We have 24, 65 ESOL. So far, we've had 7 students complete their high set. We have 7 more that are in progress, 4 students working towards the diploma. And we have students that are constantly coming to us. We had 2 new students come in this week to ask us about classes. And we do expect to see that number increase. I wouldn't say exponentially, but it's definitely going to increase in the spring. We still have students from the high school who feel that they're not going to be able to complete their program of study, and they want to know what their options are, and they come see us. As I mentioned, we have an in-person ESOL class for beginner and intermediate students, and our remote classes, which are very, very, very popular. for all different levels up to students that are working on their citizenship. Those are all full. So let's see, again, intakes and enrollments are happening weekly. Okay, and we're going on to the next program highlights. Now this is a picture of Cam. Now Cam had never attended high school anywhere, came to us with hopes of becoming a truck driver, working on a CDL. He did not have a strong support system, found us as a safe place to come. Very, very successful with his high set, and he is also now currently pursuing his dream of becoming a truck driver in a CDL program. The College and Career Access, that person next to Cam is Jessica Trimmer. She's our coordinator and advisor. 24 new students this year are engaging in our programming. Students have enrolled in YCCC, SMCC, CMCC in different fields like biology, forensic science, mental health, and rehabilitation counseling. Also, certifications are being pursued in dental assisting, CNA, CDL, and IT. Students are taking part in the free early college classes. Our adult ed graduates do qualify for that. And again, other students are working ongoing with Jessica on their FAFSA, on scholarships, and exploring other options for careers. We also do a retail career training. We do SMCC courses, if you didn't realize that. We do career assessments with the WOWI, which is the World of Work Inventory. And we also do a pretty successful substitute teacher training for the district. Okay. Personal enrichment, lifelong learning programs. We have enrollments and revenues from September to date. 711 classes are offered. That's quite a few. 572 students, generating 829 different registrations. So far, we've collected about $45,000. We're about $7,000 short from last year, and we contribute that to a kind of a tough year financially for people with their discretionary funds. We've had some issues, some challenges with getting our catalogs out in the mail. We feel that might have impacted some of our enrollments. The weather has also impacted that as well. But our lifelong learning enrichment program includes things such as photography, American Sign Language, pottery, painting, financial literacy classes, wellness, cooking, trips, orienteering, kayak instruction on Sebago Lake, line dancing, and of course the picture of the flower arranging class. But we also, in those enrollment figures, there also accounts for online certificate programs, workforce training, medical certification classes, first aid, CPR, and one of our really popular classes, drone training. Challenges. We have a few. We spent almost 4 months without a daytime secretary. That was quite a bit of a challenge. We have a person in place now who's really hit the ground running and doing a great job keeping us all organized. We still have need for larger spaces for evening classes, daytime spaces for senior programming, and our off-site classes, we do have to pay rental fees for those buildings. Again, we had a little issue with getting our catalog out in the Raymond area this past year. Also, our challenge is that we are expanding our ESOL programming, requiring more teachers and training, but there's only limited funds for that. Students are coming to us with some pretty complex needs, social emotional needs, needing counseling, and we don't really have the support on staff to do that. We can refer them out, but that's the best we can do. And again, some other changes that you note there that one of the biggest changes or challenges for us this year was the move to a new registration platform. It was really hard for us all to navigate, not as a staff, but also as a community. So we also feel that affected our enrollments. Action plan and next steps. Again, we're finally fully staffed. That's a huge plus for us. Our goal is we want to make sure we continue to provide more training to staff on the use of the registration platform, stay current with the updates, and the enhancements. They seem to be coming out almost every few weeks. We really feel it's important for us to maintain a positive online social media presence. That's how the word can get out about what we do, along with our catalog. We're looking for more economical locations for off-site classes. and finding alternative way to market her classes as well. And highlighting a moment of a teaching and learning event, we are really, really thankful to Age Friendly Wyndham and our transportation department and the bus drivers who did a food drive for us around the holidays. And we do have students who are food insecure as well. And they really do appreciate coming in and be able to go through our bins and grab what they need for themselves and their families. And then finally, we have ESOL class concluded their semester with a celebration where the students contributed and presented traditional dishes from their native countries, describing both the food but also its cultural significance. So again, we have a really strong and vibrant ESOL program that we're really proud of. I think that is it. Does anybody have any questions? I'm not even sure if I was, could they hear me yet?
Yep.
Was I talking loudly enough or close enough to the microphone?
I really just want to thank you. All I've learned about the program, the programming, the staff, all of the supports for students is tremendous, and the wide variety of programs that are offered. And although I'm not in charge of the U.S. Postal Service in Raymond, if I were, what I will say is I know that the next catalog will be coming out in August, you had said, and so we'll be
Yes.
watching for that. And to be sure, I'm reminding folks in Raymond to be sure they're looking online if they're not getting their catalog promptly and to sign up
So
for something. There's something of interest for everyone, so thank you for everything.
We do distribute the catalogs. Actually, you helped to the library in Raymond, the town hall, other businesses to make sure that they're in the community. We kind of direct people towards their website or towards our social media presence. But also maybe we think about, might put out some posters with a QR code on it, say you can scan this here and get our catalog online if you want to do that too. So.
Anyone else? Just, thank you for all that you do. I know I'm not the only person sitting up here who has attended some of your classes. I just wanted to give you this opportunity if you wanted to promote your graduation. I don't think you said the date and time.
I haven't said the date and time. We've changed it. I know it might impact some people sitting up there on the stage. We changed it to a Wednesday night, so it's the Wednesday after the day school graduates, which off the top of my head, I can't remember the date.
I think it's June 10th.
June 10th, thank you. Yeah, and we have we're having a surprise speaker, someone who's actually fairly famous here in Maine. So I'll let Chris and Christine know. I'll let you know about it as we get closer. But we're very excited about this person coming to speak with us, speak to our graduates.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to the district school calendar. May I have a motion, please?
I move to approve the 2026-2027 district school calendar.
Second.
Public comment? Board discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries. Next item, policies. May I have a motion, please?
I move to approve the first reading of policy EBAA, chemical hygiene and hazardous materials.
Second.
Public comment? Board discussion?
Sure. So EBAA, chemical hygiene and hazardous materials, is a required policy. We last reviewed this as a board in August of 2009. A little bit of information on this one's a bit different in terms of oversight, so stick with me. Purpose of this policy is to ensure safe learning and working environments by establishing those strict standards for the management of our hazardous substances. And those are used classrooms for cleaning, there's laboratories, there's a bunch of different considerations for our school environments. The oversight for the policy committee reviewed included the legal compliance with OSHA, hazardous communication standard, the legal compliance with the lab standard for occupational exposure to hazardous chemicals in labs, and compliance with Title 26, which is labor and industry occupational safety rules and regulations. This has a boards and duties of boards review, so there's a section in there not specifically for school boards per se, but it's outlined pretty clearly what the responsibility is. And then we also took a look at chapter rules for OSHA and the public sector and purchase and storage of hazardous chemicals. So thankfully, we consulted with our director of facilities. Bill Hansen and Mike Duffy also joined us, the business operations risk and safety officer for the district, on this policy. They were definitely the experts in the room, so we appreciated their time. And they also consulted on the next policy. To review the marked up policies, they sat with us and reviewed any necessary regulations. Our discussions included, in brief, a detailed review of the standardized ordering process, any first aid and MSDS storage training for staff, proposed procedural changes. And when you look at the markup, it looks as though there's been a large part of this policy that's been struck. But the language that was struck was largely procedural that didn't need to be included in this policy once we reviewed it. And it was deemed to not have any place within the policy itself. So further, the district complies with the HAZCOM standards from OSHA, the lab chemical standards as required. And the language of the policy was just edited to simplify, really, and compliance standards, designation of chemical hygiene plan and officer, the risk mitigation considerations, as well as the requirements for training of employees.
Questions or discussion?
The hygiene officer, what position in the school would that person have?
Our current chemical hygiene officer is Dr. Nick Bizier, who is a high school chemistry teacher.
Oh, okay.
And he works with Bill on not only chemical inventory, chemical ordering, but then also making sure that staff at the high school are following through with proper storage.
Okay, thank you.
I had noticed just this afternoon, I think when we were working on this policy, we kind of got into the weeds pretty quickly. So the first two sentences both start with, "It is the policy of RSU 14." Perhaps if nobody has a concern with that, we can just clean that up between now and then. It would not be a substantive change, just to make it read better once this gets cleaned. I didn't happen to notice it earlier. You ready to vote? All those in favor? Motion carries. Next policy, please.
I move to approve the first reading of policy ECB, pest management in school facilities and on school grounds.
Second.
Public comment? Board discussion?
Okay, so this is the first read for ECB, pest management in school facilities and on school grounds. Of course, we had our team with us for Mike and Bill with this one as well. It is required, and we reviewed it in November of 2009. Purpose of this one is to provide effective pest control while minimizing the use of pesticides to protect the health and safety of students and staff. The objectives include reducing exposure to both pests and pesticides. We have to maintain facilities to prevent structural damage to our school buildings caused by pests, safety of grounds such as athletic fields and playgrounds, and environmental stewardship is definitely part of this. And we had a good discussion about that, as well as the cost efficiency considerations. Oversight for the board that we need to recognize includes the agency's specific chapter rule that is not a DOE or a state board of education rule. So these are not the chapters that we would typically refer to in our policy work, but this is Chapter 7 of the Maine Board of Pesticide Controls rules, and that mandates that all public and private schools adopt an integrated pest management policy to minimize pesticide use. It outlines to appoint an IPM coordinator and follow strict notification, posting, and whenever possible, low-risk product application procedures for indoor and outdoor pest control. There's also the Maine legislature that we touch on in terms of across legal on this one for Title VII, Agriculture and Animals. This is the Maine Pesticide Control Act of 1975, pretty straightforward. Title 22, Health and Welfare, also touches on this in the Board of Pesticides Control, and it goes through the purpose of that in that legislation. Key provisions of Chapter 27 that are in this policy for top-line review is the integrated pest management. So our district does use an IPM coordinator model. It delineates the superintendent to choose and to maintain that position, notification requirements, posting signs, record keeping, and exemptions. And these rules apply to school buildings, playgrounds, athletic fields, and other areas regularly used by the students. The committee reviewed all of the oversight We reviewed the role of the integrated pest management within the district itself, the coordinator, notification, et cetera. And changes in this one include adding distribution language to the introduction you'll see there, defining the IPM integrated pest management system just in terms of good practice. We replaced some procedural language as we did in the last one, so there's a lot of strike in there, but that's just really procedure around how the superintendent works with the IPM contact in the district and then what their roles and responsibilities are, which is not required in this policy. So directive policy language with no substantive changes when compared to our current policy.
Questions or comments on that? All those in favor? Motion carries. Last policy, please.
I move to approve the second reading of policy BEDH, public participation at board meetings.
Second.
Public comment? Board discussion? All those in favor? Okay, motion carries. All right, our next item is the 26-27 district budget draft that's going to be presented by Mr. Howell.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to try to actually stand back here a little bit so I'm not putting my back to people. Tonight is an opportunity for me to share my proposed budget for the RSU 14 board. And after tonight, the administrative team, Christine and I are handing the board the budget, and then we'll start working through the process of continuing through. Just want to remind the board and the public, the budget process is not a sprint. This is a marathon. Tonight is that opportunity to start at the starting line and work through that process of looking at how do we spend the dollars that are allocated to us by not only the communities of Wyndham and Raymond, but the citizens of the great state of Maine, as well as the federal funds that we receive to run RSU 14. So tonight I have my budget presentation. Throughout the month of March, the board will have the opportunity to hear from all the different cost centers. Something a little different this year, the Finance Committee will also have the opportunity to go through with each of the directors and again, go fine line, taking a look through the budget. And then ultimately, the board will have the opportunity in the 1st of April to go ahead and deliberate, decide where it is that the budget is and what you want to ultimately bring to the public. Also want to just mention that the budget that's presented tonight, I know we have many veteran board members here and also an ex-board member, that the budget that you start with tonight is most certainly not the budget that's going to be ended with on April 15th when the board needs to go ahead and make the final budget recommendation. Whatever the board decides on for that final budget will then on May 13th will go to the communities of Wyndham and Raymond in the public budget meeting, and they will then have the final say as to what goes to the voters on June 9th. And then June 9th will be the determination whether or not the budget that's been put forward by me, by the board, by the community meeting, whether or not that's the budget that is finally adopted. So again, this is a marathon, and I know we're going to see frequent articles and posts and other pieces about the budget. Again, where we start tonight is certainly not where we're going to end back when we get into April. Also just want to add the pieces which have led up to tonight, because the budget's been going on since November. It's kind of a crazy system that we live in where a budget gets approved in June, we start it in July, and then usually October, November, we're starting the next budget. And working through that process. It feels like oftentimes kind of a never-ending process, but Stacy and all the folks who work in the business office started the budget rollover in December. Christine and I had a chance to meet with every single cost center and go through every line by line by line to look at where budgets were, where from our directors and from our principals, areas that they were either struggling with having enough funds to support, or areas where they wanted to shift funds. And I think one of the themes that you're going to hear tonight is that wherever you see a new position, that new position came from some other position. A lot of reallocation happening between looking at if I need something different in my building, where can I take an existing position to move that along? So I think this budget, when we get to the final number, actually has a reduction of about 10 full-time equivalents as we work through the process. And then again, A-Team had the opportunity through the month of December, the administrative team, all the principals and directors, and then ultimately in February, we put a bow on version 6, which is the budget that you have in front of you. My best guess is we probably will be to versions 8 or 9 by the time that this budget process is finished up. So again, tonight is an opportunity to talk about the budget, where we are currently, and then also to give a flavor for the communities, what we expect some of the impacts are going to be to local taxes. And we're obviously very cognizant of economic conditions right now, just a general feeling of where people are at. We are also very cognizant of the cost of everything that has gone up as of recent. And we also have taken this as a budget opportunity to really look at how efficient are we using the funds that we have. Not that we haven't done that in past years, but knowing that this is a year where we have many different challenges that are happening within the budget, and making sure that we are as fiscally responsible as we can for individual households in Windham and Raymond. So as we talk about budget, some of the things that people think about when they think about a school budget is they think about the classrooms. We have roughly 280 classroom teachers in RSU 14, meeting the needs of students all the way from pre-K to age 22. So wide range of individuals, but multiple subjects, whether it be special education, regular education, science education, social studies, all the different ways that we meet the needs of students throughout the district. But oftentimes when people think about budgets, what they don't think about are all the other things that have to take place, all the other supports and pieces that have to make sure that that teacher with that student at that point of instruction, that the heat's on, that the light's on, that kids were fed, that kids made it to school that day, that there was actually a bus that could go by, that they're safe, and that there's proper security within their buildings, that their buildings are actually kept up so that they're safe for staff and students to go along and actually be part of, that the technology works. I think all of us are used now to technology, but the moment that tech doesn't work is when it becomes very, very apparent. But often when we're thinking about school budgets, we're thinking about what is that impact at the classroom level. But also I think as a community, we need to think about all those other pieces that lend themselves to making a school happen and making a school district happen. So the individuals, they were actually out working today, moving snow, making sure that we could get schools open. And it's been a challenging year for our staff. The number of times that they've had to come in early mornings or late nights to make sure that schools are shoveled out, sidewalks are treated, and that we are ready to go. Not once have we not been able to open school because our staff didn't show up to take care of things. And that also includes the dozen or so bus drivers, actually I think it's a half dozen, who volunteer their time to come in sometimes 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning to shovel out the buses, to clean them off. When we think about cleaning off our cars, they're out there cleaning out the buses, making sure that they're all set. Our IT, we have over 3,000 devices that are in the district. Between our 638 staff members and our 3,100 students, the number of devices that all have to work. And we have a very, very small IT department. If we were a $67 million business, we'd have more than 7 or 8 people working in our IT department, but very, very small with that. The bus drivers that we have, 660,000 miles a year, here to Dallas every day that we're driving in mileage between the buses and the vans. safely driving students. If you think about all of us are on the road, the amount of liability that we have and the individuals that we deal with that aren't necessarily paying attention on the road, and our professional drivers that are out there making sure that our kids make it safely every single day. Those 24 buses, those more than a dozen vans that are bringing kids to special education programs all over southern Maine. It's just a component that people often don't think about when they think about the school budget. Classroom supplies, materials. Anybody who has then done back-to-school shopping for their own children or for their adult children or looking to support, prices have gone up. Not only does that hit a household budget, but it also hits the school budget as far as textbooks go, supplies go, all the different materials that it takes to run a classroom. Those costs have gone up. We have amazing secretaries and support staff that make sure that all of our offices run well. We have a business department of roughly 6 individuals that are managing 638 employees, 6 different contracts, and making sure that people have the information that they need, that they're taken care of. All the wonderful people that work in our offices. And one thing I love about this district is that not only do our school secretaries know our kids, they know many of our parents and have developed long-term relationships with parents as kids come through and as families come through. But those individuals that are that point of contact in the office or the person who has to call home when someone gets a cut, those nurses that are working to support our kids. And then lastly here, we have some large buildings. And we have custodians that clean the equivalent of 12 to 15 houses a night. One custodian with the areas that they serve and the areas that they do. Our new middle school is almost 6.5 acres of floor space that each night we're going to have a crew that's going to go through and make sure the classrooms are clean. The 89 bathrooms are clean. A lot of work to make sure that things are taken care of. So again, as we work through the budget process, I know oftentimes the public goes to, or the community goes to what's happened in the classroom, you're cutting teachers or these other components, but then also roughly half our staff are support staff who make sure that the buildings do everything that they need to do and that kids have the supports that they need, and then those classroom teachers that are meeting the needs of our kids each and every day. Enrollment-wise, always a good starting point. Wyndham and Raymond, looking across at our schools, we've actually stayed pretty steady with our enrollments. And I know that both communities now have interest in some larger housing. Wyndham, we've actually seen a number of apartments put in. But throughout all of this, we've actually seen a pretty steady enrollment that's staying within our districts, roughly about 3,100 students that are in the district. And as you look across here, Wyndham Primary School, looking at next year, will be a little bit larger. Raymond Elementary School will be a little bit smaller, and I think one thing that's challenging in all these different grade levels is that we have grade levels that in some cases may need 3 teachers, sometimes they only need 2 teachers, depending upon the makeup and how many students might actually be in a particular grade level. Manchester is going to stay pretty steady. Our pre-K partners, I think we actually might be bumping up a little bit more since the slide was done, just a couple kids. Jordan Small has stayed right around 180 students, been pretty consistent now for a number of years. Wyndham Middle School, about 592 students. And Wyndham High School, for the first time, will actually be dropping a little bit below 900. So a little bit of a drop that's there, but starting to see again this year's kindergarten class at Wyndham Primary is one of the largest classes we've had in a while. So those numbers that are continuing to hold. But looking that this upcoming year, we're going to be servicing and meeting the needs of about the same number of students we've had before. I showed this last year, 10 largest school districts in Maine. Last year, I think we were number 8. When I started with the slide 3 or 4 years ago, we were number 9. We're now, the 7th largest school district in the state of Maine. We've actually passed Oxford Hills, which a little bit surprised me. Oxford Hills, one of the largest geographic areas, along with Bonnie Eagle. But our numbers have kind of crept up a little bit beyond that. But again, Portland being the largest school district in the state, followed by Lewiston, Bangor, SAD 6, Auburn, and we're just a little bit behind Sanford. So we are a large district. I know we serve 2 smaller communities, but we are a large district, and we are a large district when you look at us compared to the state of Maine. Spending-wise, this is something that I think because we run larger, more efficient schools, if you look at our per pupil spending as compared to other school districts around us, right now for this past year, the audited amount was $19,803 for state average for cost per pupil. RSU 14 was $18,600. MSAD 6 was $18,100, and Gorham was right around $18,000. One of the big differences between us and Gorham, Gorham has the town takes care of its fields, so they don't have the grounds responsibility. The town takes care of that because they're considered to be a department of the town. So often when you see a community, Scarborough used to be that way as well. Scarborough's IT department is actually run by the town. It's not run by the school district. So in single district towns, you'll see oftentimes some costs slightly reduced. But again, Falmouth is the most expensive cost per pupil in our area, but little over $25,000 per pupil. And again, RSU 14, 18,600. Again, for the most part, we have larger buildings, which have more student housed. It actually reduces the number of administrators that you have. So more schools, more administrators, fewer schools, fewer administrators. Also, when it comes to heating, cooling, you start to remove some of those responsibilities or some of those needs as you get a little bit smaller. So let's get into the budget. I guess the point where everyone came and showed up tonight and some interest, which is great. Right out the door, our budget challenges. First of all, our open the door this year, 18.5%. Okay, it's an inflated number. And one of those challenges being is that this budget contains over $10 million of state subsidy for the new school. If you have $10 more million coming in of revenue, you have to have $10 more million in expenses. So one of the things that we also did this year when we look at the budget and board, you'll see it as we work through your budget books, is we track the budget in 2 ways this year. One, which is just regular year over year. If RSU 14 didn't have this wonderful opportunity to build a new middle school, what would the budget look like? So tracking that on one side. On the opposite side, tracking, we have a beautiful new school that will open in August of 2027, and the state of Maine is putting in $130 million, which is a $10 million bond payment each year, that revenue and that expense has to live. So then tracking that in a separate spot, because I think it's important for the public to know what's our budget and what's regular year over year, and then also our budget that's going to be inflated because you have all this excess money that's coming in to support that building that's happening. Other budget challenges that we have this year, we have regular year over year increases. One of the biggest increases this year, and I'm going to show it in a future slide, health insurance. In fact, health insurance, if you look at just regular, open the door, year over year, regular operating expenses, it's over half of what our increase is actually going to be is attributed to health. That's a placeholder at the moment. One of the hard pieces about this budget, and board members know that have been doing this for a while, is that we get our final health insurance number usually first week of April. So we'll continue to work through the budget process, but we'll get to that point where we'll actually have a real number. Right now there's a placeholder in there for where we are with health insurance. State valuations for Windham and Raymond. And I think it's important for the public to understand this and to get this right. So first of all, each town is responsible for valuating the property that's within the town. That's determined by the town. Usually towns are hiring somebody like Vision Appraisal, or they have somebody in town who's an assessor and they go through and they assess the town. Independent of that, the state of Maine and the Maine Revenue Services do their own independent valuation of communities. And so you often will have two numbers, and I know, Board, you're aware of this, that Town of Raymond, if you look at state valuation of where the state sees it, somewhere over about $2.1 billion that the state of Maine sees it. Raymond last year was valuating property somewhere a little over 1.1. So the state, when they look at Raymond, they don't look at the 1.1, the state looks at 2.1. Similarly for Wyndham, I think is around $4.4 billion is what the state values it at. Wyndham went through a revaluation a couple years ago, and the amounts that are there are probably a little closer to state valuation than where Raymond is at. So that state valuation number, which for this past year, Wyndham's in the state eyes went up 4.6%, Raymond went up 10.3% on how the state of Maine looks. Doesn't mean that Raymond valuation was actually factored into that, and I know Raymond's going through a valuation process right now. Whether or not that gets closer to where the state sees it, time will tell. But when the state looks at what's your fiscal capacity, how much of it as a community, how much can you afford to spend on your school budget, they have their own calculation. They're not relying on the locals. And I know I've heard in the past of communities that have said, you know what, we shouldn't actually change our valuation because it's going to impact how much money we get from the state. Not true. State's going to do that independently of anything that's happening in the community. And I think what you'll find in communities is that communities that are close to what valuation should be, their mill rate or their dollars per thousand tend to be lower than if you have a community that hasn't done a revaluation for a while. Mill rates tend to get a little bit higher, but the values are lower. So definitely a challenge for us. The 3-year running average for Wyndham and Raymond as the state views us, 16% of what the community's done, because the state is running on a 3-year average. The statewide average was only 12%. So board members, we've had some budget 101 stuff. Two most important things on state subsidy are valuation and kid count. So if your valuation is running at a level that's higher than what the state's running at, chances are your subsidy is actually going to drop a little bit. Because the state says, you know what, your community's worth more. It's a challenge for us. People want to live in Wyndham and Raymond, which is increasing values. State sees it as increasing values, and then the state says your fiscal capacity is a little bit greater. Other challenges this year, adult education. We received roughly $76,000 in the past for adult education. Instead of coming to the RSU to help offset taxation, that's now going directly to adult education programs. Ultimately, that reduces the cost of adult ed and then makes it to the taxpayer. So instead of going to the RSU, it's now going to adult education. But it's a little different way that the formula is running. Reduction of grant funding for BAR implementation. Building assets, reducing risks. We've seen great progress in our schools with some of the work and some of the coaching. That professional development is roughly $80,000 per school. That funding is now gone. I know the Ed Committee now is looking at it to see whether or not it is restored. And then lastly there, the increasing cost of materials, supplies, and food. It just like it costs household more money to run, it costs the district more money to run anything that we purchase. Some opportunities. We have an amazing new building that's being built down the street. 76% of which is being covered by taxpayers and other communities. It's a competitive program. 9 buildings were done in the 2018 funding cycle. We were number 5. It's a great gift to the communities of Wyndham and Raymond. A couple things that it does is it replaces a couple aging schools, presents opportunities for 2 community centers. It also sets us up with any enrollment issues that we're going to see for at least the next 5 to 10 years. We're increasing capacity because the state of Maine said instead of a 6-8 school, we'll let you build a 5-8 school because Jordan Small joining it has 5th grade. Opportunity to add additional grade level, freeing up space in other buildings. It's a great opportunity for us. And as I mentioned earlier, it's about $10 million in the 27 budget of direct subsidy that is coming in to pay our bonds that are associated with that. We are finally reaching a point with negotiations that we have actually now become a lot more competitive in our wage scales and our salary scales. We were behind over the last 2 years. Those have now risen up a little bit, and we're far more competitive with our peers. We're in that kind of average, or just a little bit above average range, and we'd actually fallen kind of 40th percentile in some areas. So in this budget, we are able to offer some competitive wages for our staff. Also, district investments in infrastructure paying off, reducing costs for heating and cooling. This is one of the first budgets where we don't have huge increases in fuel oil. Natural gas is increasing because natural gas prices but our quantities that we're using are dropping. Electricity, we were able to lock in electricity at actually a lower rate than what we were paying this past year. Being able to reduce some of those costs, and even across the street with electrification of RAS, with now using heat pumps to heat and cool that building, has reduced the amount of fossil fuels that we're using, the amount of propane that we are using, and actually has helped stabilize some of the costs over there at that building. So definitely some opportunities that are happening within this budget. So budget story for 2027. There's 3 big things that are impacting this budget. Number one, health insurance increase. And as I mentioned earlier, we'll show it here in a graph, about 54% of just our regular operating increase is attributed to health insurance. We don't know where we're going to land at this moment. This budget, hopefully, that number will come in. We'll be able to reduce the overall budget. Middle school construction debt. Other than the $300,000 that was paid by Raymond last year to receive that $10 million in subsidy, middle school construction debt, this is the first year that we actually have to start paying some of the interest on bonds for that new middle school. The bond was passed in, 23? It's 2026. Other than the $300,000, we have not paid anything yet for that building. So this is the first budget in which that appears. And then other pieces of the story, Wyndham and Raymond valuation's going up. And what that means is that the amount of state subsidy that you can expect to see to help offset costs actually starts to be reduced, because it actually shows that you have more fiscal capacity, you have more money as a district to be able to spend. So here is our regular year-over-year increase. This is if we didn't have any construction debt. This is if we weren't building and we didn't have all the subsidy coming in. It's about a 4.9% increase, 4.99%. This includes negotiated salaries and benefits. It includes health insurance. It includes classroom supplies and factoring in some of the costs that are associated with that. But $3.3 million, or 4.99% increase, that's regular budget over year-over-year budget. Definitely far less than where we came in last year. I think actually at this point in time we were coming in around 6, almost 7% where our open the door was, our starting point. And our administrative team has worked extremely hard on bringing down costs. Actually, we'll go to the top here for when they first received the budget, 6.5% for our regular, I don't know if this laser is going to work. Look at that. 6.5% is our regular operating year-over-year increase. We're at 4.99. Already this budget has seen a reduction of almost $1.2 million of existing, whether it be programs, services, open FTEs, reduction in some areas where we reduced legal costs, we reduced some travel and mileage in some places, but already the budget that you're receiving tonight is $1.1 million less than when the administrative team first started this process. So really starting to work, and a reduction of almost 2% running down and through. We'll go back to this slide though. Represents in our version 6 year-over-year increase The blue side is health insurance. The remaining part in orange there is where we are for salary and benefits. So significant budget changes in personnel, people. And board members, your copy actually has a typo in it, has a Jordan Small with a question mark. That position was moved down to the district-wide, but I'll go through. Due to class makeup and where different grade levels fall with population, this is a reduction of a grade 3 teacher at Raymond Elementary School. And that's a position just due to enrollment. Right now, Raymond Elementary School has reached a point, has a large group coming over to Jordan Small, and doesn't need the number of staff. It's actually being reduced now to 2 teachers per grade level instead of the 3 that was needed. Wyndham Middle School has a reduction of 1 altitude teacher and has an addition of a 7th grade teacher. And it goes back to kind of this theme where one goes out, something comes back. There was a greater need for a 7th grade teacher, so making that change. Under transportation, we had a bus driver that we could charge to a different spot, so we reduced that bus driver. Additionally, we had a part of a van driver that we could charge to a different area. We removed that out of the budget, pulled that out and through. Under support services, we have a retiring certified occupational therapist assistant. That's a position that we're not going to be filling. In addition, right now we have 7 open ed tech positions then that we will not be filling and looking to reallocate. And right now we are working with Lisa and her team and the administrators on ways that we can group schedule students so that we can be as efficient as possible. Currently, those 7 ed tech positions, those are open positions in the district that we would not be looking to fill. Also, just want to share with the board that those 7 positions are placeholders. We're also looking at the opportunity if we have open positions with some staffing and we need ed techs instead, that we'd be looking to maybe hire a teacher and then, or reduce a teacher, but then hire a couple of ed techs. So it's going to stay a little bit fluid at the moment. But it has that reduction. Manchester School, the bubble is going from 4th grade to 5th grade, so we're reducing 2 4th grade teachers, and we are adding 2 5th grade teachers, just moving people across the other side of the building and moving them along. District-wide, significant changes. Middle school debt, and I've got a slide here I'll share here in a second on how that's going to be broken down. We also are planning that we'd like to move bar up. We'd like to scale it up at the middle level. And so we have a standards-based teacher who is doing bar and part-time standards-based here at Jordan Small. That person will be reassigned to doing bar across the middle schools, both of them, because one more year, those 2 middle schools will be coming together. And so that results in the reduction of that 1 standards-based teacher. And then another significant change is bar professional development. And this budget includes $160,000 in bar professional development, which includes coaching for 3 different schools and the supports that go along with that. This is our last year of full-scale coaching and all-staff training. 1 more year out, those costs drop dramatically. We're still hopeful that some of that money will be reinstated by the legislature. And if that's the case, have the board can take a look at, do you reallocate or do you continue to cut the budget for that amount? Debt. So this budget will include $6.5 million worth of debt. And of that $6.5 of that $6.5 million worth of debt, the state of Maine will be paying roughly $5 million of that. It's a great gift to the communities of Wyndham and Raymond, that amount of debt service. Local estimated debt is $1.6 million. That $1.6 million is allocated using the cost-sharing formula that's established, which for major capital construction is based on student enrollment. So in this case, 82% of the new school will roughly be students from Wyndham. So of that 1.6 million, Wyndham will be paying 82% of that. Of the 1.6, Raymond will have roughly 18%. Raymond will be paying that 18%. Just going to take a quick drink for a second. Just want to also take a moment to share, and I know the board's aware of this, but the communities may not be. Something that we saw within our ED 279s, and I was actually referred to the statute that changed this, is that Raymond going into this middle school project was considered to be a minimum receiver, didn't receive state subsidy, and because of that was required to contribute to the cost of the new middle school as a local debt piece before they released any state subsidy. And so just to kind of backtrack, last year we received $105 million worth of bonds because Wyndham received subsidy. That didn't cost Wyndham anything. For Raymond to unlock those bonds, it was $330,000 roughly. That requirement has now been dropped. And so the state of Maine is no longer requiring Raymond to pay that $330,000 to get that state subsidy. Been a little bit of controversy out there because in some people's views it's taken money from districts that are perceived as minimum receivers to be able to afford it, and it has moved money from districts that could have used it to districts that didn't meet that capacity. But that is now a reduction that goes on. And so if you look at this debt, 18%, and I'm going to just do some rough math, there's a little over $200,000. So what Raymond was paying last year is basically already built into the budget for Raymond taxpayers, because what you're doing is you're reducing that 330. You're picking up the is then covering that 200, and so you actually end up with a little bit of a net. So it does benefit the taxpayers of Raymond greatly. For Wyndham taxpayers, that $105 million that you received last year, you received it as straight subsidy. So you didn't have any expenses that were associated with it. Whether or not this continues into the future, I don't know, but I can say for this particular budget, that cost to unleash, not unleash, but to be able to pull down subsidy has been removed. So it does impact, ultimately, when we get finally to the bottom line, because for Raymond taxpayers, you have a component that is already built into what you've been paying already. So it's helpful that way. So if you look at overall budget, let's start back at the very beginning. We have our regular year-over-year increase. We have an increase that's going to be happening because we're going to have some local portion of debt, that $1.6 million. And then we have an $11.5 million increase in our budget, a lot of which is then driven by what's happening associated with the middle school project. And if you look at our budget, so operating budget, that's at $3.3 million. That's our year over year. This is our local construction payment. And then over here, this is what the state is contributing to our budget next year just to cover debt for the new middle school. So roughly half of that being picked up for new increases by just direct straight state subsidy. And if you look at our subsidy over time, so fiscal year, and this is the last 6 years, total subsidy we received, and look, in FY22 we received $18 million in subsidy. FY27 will receive $27 million worth of subsidy. Take that over a little bit to the right, though. Construction subsidy. In 22, we were still receiving some subsidy for Wyndham High School. And if you look here in 27, $9.9 million coming into this budget in subsidy to support that building. If you look at regular subsidy, FY22 we received $16.6 million in subsidy. This year we're going to receive a little over $17 million. Not much has changed. So over the last 6 years, our subsidy has grown by just a little over $300,000. Not a lot has changed. And part of that is that valuations for Wyndham and Raymond have continued to grow. which state sees you as more, are considered to be more wealthy, which then if you look at those subsidy numbers, you'd want to actually see some huge increases. Also had a study shared with me this week about EPS in general, and that the state has not kept up with inflation for their EPS calculation. We've heard for a long time, states covering 55% of the cost of education. The calculation was done, EPS formula is about $262 million short of where it should be. When you look at salary data, when you look at overall costs of school districts, and when you look at years in which we were all experiencing 5, 6, 7% inflation because of costs and goods and services, the state was calculating in 1, 2%. And so that gap then created larger and larger. So we have not seen a ton of money coming in other than right now almost half of our subsidy is coming in to support the new building. Budget history, 21-22, we were 2.8% of an increase, 22-23, 4.3, 23-24, 4.2, 5.9, because that was the year we added pre-K. We saw our budget go up. Last year was a 12.75% increase. And I think the board's aware, public's probably aware, is that 24-25, the mill rate for Wyndham was the same rate as the mill rate for this current year. Taxes related to education and Wyndham did not change. Raymond did see a tax increase. Part of that was due to increases related to the new building, and part of that was just due to increases that are just attributed to Raymond in general. But again, a lot of this increase going to new building, new money that's coming into the district, and not necessarily costs of operations. These are way too small to see, and I can't even come close to reading this, but I'm going to kind of wander over. Let's see if we can. So if you look at our, I think I need a longer leash. Looking at this pie graph, expenses by category. Here is regular instruction happening in the classroom, special education. This big chunk now is debt service. It's a big portion of our budget. In fact, if you look at this, it's probably 15% of our overall budget is now just regular subsidy coming in to support the new building. Transportation costs, system administration, and other support pieces with transportation. If we go to revenue categories, local taxes, state subsidy, bond funding. So roughly 2/3 of the district being supported by the local taxpayers, the rest coming from subsidy from taxpayers across the state of Maine and supporting us. So I'll go back to our budget story. Health insurance, middle school construction, and increased evaluation for Wyndham and Raymond. So ultimately this comes down to what's the impact on the local taxpayers. I know that's all we kind of want to get to that point. What's the impact going to be? So if you look at our state attributed mill rate school attributed mill rate based on state valuation. So this calculation doesn't match the mill rates that you're going to see in your tax bills, because this is strictly based on what state valuation is and how much we were asking communities to contribute in those years. So 2020, Wyndham mill rate for the RSU based on our state valuation, not actually on what was taxed, was $10.53. Raymond was $9.05. 2021, $10.18. What you'll notice is that it actually drops. Part of that drop is the factor of valuations change, more properties valued, mill rate can drop. Raymond, we see started at 9.5, and this past year attributed based on state valuation. Again, I go back to Raymond. Raymond's a tricky one to figure out just because the valuation is roughly half of what the state valuation is. You could almost double this and get pretty close to what the school mill rate value is. But one thing that you'll notice is that on this particular year, looking forward, is that Wyndham goes up by about $60 cents per thousand, excuse me, and Raymond actually we're expecting to kind of drop or remain steady based upon the amount of property that is available for taxation or is in the valuation. Whether or not Raymond is actually taxing that, the RSU does not actually tax citizens. We send a bill to Wyndham and Raymond saying this is the cost. This is our best estimate based upon what we know state valuation is. I don't know the current value of what Raymond is taxing on. Wyndham, I've got a general idea on, and I know Raymond's going through their valuation process. But if you kind of extrapolate all this out, and again, this is the starting point. If you look at a $500,000 home in Wyndham, probably looking at about a $300 increase for this budget. And that includes the cost of the new middle school for local debt, and that includes our regular operational cost increases. So $500,000 home, I heard yesterday, the median home in Wyndham is $424,000. So it'd be a little bit less than that for the medium home, $270 or so. That's middle school costs and regular operating budget. Raymond, I don't know what their valuation is. What I can just kind of say for a general piece is that based on the amount of valuation that has been added as what the state recognizes, things should stay pretty level. Again, we don't tax, we don't set mill rates. That's up to the select boards. That's up to our town council in Wyndham. This is just based on what the state says. This is what's available to tax, and this is how much money that we're asking for. And in fact, for Raymond, because of that reduction, there's probably about $400,000 less of what the RSU is asking for Raymond than what it did last year. Because of that drop that was already in there. Whether or not this holds true, again, that's up to the town council and to the select board to determine those final pieces. So budget takeaways for tonight. I think I've got one more slide after this. We know we're going to be dealing with a big health insurance increase. So anticipating that within our budget, we know we have middle school construction debt. We have $1.6 million roughly that we have to pay this year. 18% will be paid by Raymond. 82% of that would be paid on Wyndham, and that's a straight up kid count. We know that Wyndham and Raymond valuations have gone up. The state sees you as being a little bit more wealthy, not extra subsidy. Tax impact in Wyndham, roughly $300 on a $500,000 house. And that is construction debt, and that is also regular operating increases. Tax impact for Raymond, it should be pretty level. Again, we don't set the mill rates, we don't set the tax rates, we don't actually even set what towns are choosing to tax. But as far as what the RSU is seeing for state valuation, it should be staying pretty level. Time will tell with that, and we will work with the select board and the council. I think I'm due to go to the select board sometime 1st of March and have an opportunity to do a budget discussion with them to let them know kind of where we're at. Had a chance to meet with the new town manager in Raymond, or the interim manager, and start to walk through pieces. I think they had a chance to introduce their budget this week, and so we'll be working through that process much like we've worked through with Wyndham. And again, it goes back to you service 3,100 students to this budget. You support 638 staff. You're the largest employer in the area. And you do it at a very reasonable cost when you look at per pupil costs. We have an amazing gift that's coming with a new middle school that we're paying $39 million of $155 million price tag. There are districts all around us that are super jealous that the fact that we even have that opportunity. And it is going to be an amazing facility for our students and our staff, and for both communities to be able to use for years to come and to deal with all of our enrollment issues. But we're a kid-focused organization, and we want to see as many dollars as possible that aren't our debt obligations going directly to the classroom to meet the needs of kids and to make sure that when they leave, whether it be Wyndham High School or through Choice, one of the area high schools, they get to choose what they do next, and that they're fully prepared to do that. So I know there's going to be plenty of opportunity for the public to ask questions and also for the board to ask questions as we go through the different cost centers. But right now, that is where we are landing. And now, the budget is officially yours.
Thank you, Superintendent Howell. That was our last agenda item this evening, so may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay, motion carries. We are adjourned. Our next meeting will be March 4th at Wyndham High School at 6:30 p.m.